to the Artist Spotlight. We're here with Trish Weeks in Studio 245. Trish, thanks for taking the time to share with us today.
My pleasure.
Tell us a little bit about your background.
My background has had a very zigzag sort of progression. I started painting seriously in the 90s and became progressively more involved in it. And it was kind of after I had finished 5 years at the University of Cincinnati, DAA. And I started off as a fashion with a fashion career idea, and that really didn't happen. I gradually morphed into an interior designer, which I did for 40 years. And in the early 90s, I started trying to pursue a career with being an art, which was sometimes at the same time as being a designer during the day and a painter by night. So I've been showing my work professionally since that time, and I have worked in galleries in different cities here in the United States and work with commercial dealers at this point. So it's been a fun thing, and I love my studio here at Essex. And
So what brought you to the Essex?
Well,
how did you arrive here?
I arrived here because a friend of mine, Jill DeHorn, had a studio here. And when I started making noises about, I really need to get my own studio, I can't keep piling this stuff up in my basement and being an itinerant painter. And she says, well, why don't you get a studio here? And I'm still next door to her here, probably about 20 years later. So I've been here a very long time in this studio.
So kind of the rest is history.
Oh yeah, the rest is history.
So tell me, with all the bright colors and the textures, the feeling that you have, movement that you get in your paintings, how did you come up with your style of art?
Well, it was a combination of an early mentor and studies at UC. I was kind of gobsmacked by Joseph Albers and what you could do with color to make sort of things change, if you will, optically. And I was taking a class because I had nowhere to paint, and the studio mentor, who's since deceased now, was really sort of a gifted teacher. He picked up my palette knife and says, put those brushes down, try this. I went, okay. So the rest of that day I used a palette knife, and I was having a blast. And I haven't put that palette knife down.
A lot of freedom.
Oh my gosh, and I love the way I could layer all the texture, and between the color theory and the texture, I get a movement, a vibration in almost all of my paintings, whether it's a serene vibration or a really jumping vibration. So it's just been a lot of fun, and color is something that I can learn something every day. It's like little things you figure out that makes it so exciting, whether I'm working on a small canvas or a big one, or doing something with, you know, oil and wax, or, I mean, I play with a number of different kinds of materials. So it's all part of the fun and the work.
So you told us a little bit about the next question already, but within the process, how do you come up with, you know, your themes? It looks like a lot of landscapes, but you know, what do you think about when you go to do a painting? Does it come natural, or do you seek it out?
Well, you know, I kind of have my interpretation of a place of where I've been, you know, and I choose to paint what I know, where I've been. And so if I'm repetitive in anything, it's that I'm about where I've been and sort of what talks to me. And I really am primarily a landscape painter, even when I get fairly abstract. And I work on different types of media, because it gives me a different feel or impression, because it's all oil paint here, but it looks different depending upon the type of panel that you put it on. Or in the case of this piece over here to the far right, that one is beeswax and oil paint. And so it again gives you a different look, but it's the same material, it's the same paint. And this one is on aluminum, which gives it a completely different look as well. So it's part of the fun for me. I mean, I just don't get bored. I just switch into something else to try to kind of
mix it up.
Yeah, mix it up a little bit and sort of keep things a little fresh.
So now, how long have you been at the Essex, and what are the advantages of having a studio? I know some of it's camaraderie, that kind of thing. Tell us a little bit about that.
This is sort of like my inner sanctum of where I come to work, and but the other factors are very important as well, the camaraderie with my fellow artists, and there's sort of an energy buzz that's at part of the building, and I think that really helps to kind of fuel things. Plus, it just, you know, sometimes it's just a kindred spirit that kind of walks down the hall and says, hey, nice work today, or something like that. It kind of gives you a bit of a boost. And
sometimes when you just don't feel like doing it today.
Well, or you feel like you're not doing anything that's really kind of making it, you know? So, you know, everybody's got their sort of off days, and you have days where you can't put a stroke down wrong. So those are all part of being an artist, and any part of creativity, whether you're a writer or whatever is your medium. There's very many different artistic mediums.
It's always great to have support in whatever way it comes.
Absolutely.
Now, what would you say to aspiring artists? Somebody just getting into the field, they don't have a studio, they're just kind of thinking about what to do, or maybe they've come a little bit of ways and kind of hit a block. Tell us a little bit about what you said.
Well, all I can tell you is that I've had this very zigzag path, as you will, from on my journey to be an artist, or to I think we all have part of that inside of us, but I think you just kind of figured out what works for you. And for me, I was an itinerant painter for a while till I had a studio, and finally just said, hey, if I'm really going to do this, I need a space, whether it's a full-blown studio or it's your basement, wherever it is. Having a place where you can be, have it set up and ready to go, or have a portable kit that's in your car ready to go. But mostly, I think it's sort of the consistency of doing a little something every day for your art. And that doesn't necessarily mean painting, because there's the research, there's sort of the kind of looking up at maybe some of the old famous guys and gals, and to kind of get recharge or refocus, or maybe help solve a problem that you're having with a composition or something. So, because every time you work on a piece of a new piece, there's trying to get the composition right, which I think is a really important factor. So,
so a career path in art doesn't just happen. You really have to plan, think about your direction and what you're trying to reach, if that's your goal.
Well, I don't know that I had that much of a long-term plan. My first plan was to have a place to work. My second plan was to be open to opportunities as they came. So I did a lot of shows, and entered a lot of juried shows and whatnot. And I haven't even counted how many shows I've been in. But even if it's just a chance to show your work, it's a chance to kind of be out there and to be with other artists, which is, just a lot of fun. And you get a lot of encouragement that way too. So, and hopefully artists should always remember, to encourage another artist and try to look on the bright and the positive side. So that would be one thing that I think is kind of important. And we're all in this game together. So, let's enjoy the party as a group, which is part of being here. Yeah. It's there's a lot of good things happening here.
Well, Trish, thanks again for taking the time to share with us. I really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure talking with you, and we're so happy that you're part of the Essex.
Well, I'm happy to be here too. I love being here.